We are now recording.
Well done.
February 5th meeting of the Potomac Council will please come to order.
Okay.
You should have received from Laura both an agenda, a draft agenda, and our financial status. We might just go around and introduce ourselves once again. I think we know who we are. I'll start with myself. I'm John Peterson from Northern Virginia, currently serving as the chairman of the council. Then we'll go to Laura. Laura Grape.
Yes, good morning. I'm Laura Grape, Executive Director with the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District, and John's alternate to the council.
Hi, I'm John Flannery. I'm the director and the treasurer in the Loudoun Soil and Water Conservation District, and I am the chair, I guess, of Area 2 as well. And I have been chosen again to join this august body, and so I'm very pleased to do so. Although it's very strange to be sitting on this this arrangement. I do some of this on TV, and it's like now my whole life has these little boxes everywhere. But I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm director and chairman of the Northern Neck Soil and Water Conservation District.
Thank you, Robert. Michael? Michael is on, I know. We also have Debbie Cross and Rebecca Shoemaker from DEQ. Is there anybody else on? I can't see.
There's a call-in user number 5.
That's Robert Pickett, I think.
No, he's 4.
Oh, he's 4?
Deirdre, is that you maybe calling in?
I have, I guess, managed to connect in some way. This is Deirdre
Good.
Clark, Vice Chair, John Marshall, Soil and Water Conservation District. And I've used this format before, however, had a lot of trouble calling in. I think Fauquier County kids must be working from home today.
When there are a lot of people on a limited bandwidth, that's what happens. You sound perfectly now. That's a relief.
Sounds good now. You should
Okay,
have all
that's
received a draft agenda that Laura has prepared along with our financial status. One of the first things on the agenda is something Laura and I have talked about, and that is that the roundtable itself, we might want to talk a little bit about the officers of the roundtable and member appointments, particularly the officers. As many of you know, for a long time, we had a gentleman from Prince William County who served as the vice chairman next to Penny, and he's been long gone. I haven't heard from him for a long time. Laura, have you heard much more from Penny?
In regards to officers, no. I mean, Penny is still committed to the roundtable and certainly happy to continue in the role that she's in right now. But I do think that we need to revisit the vice chair positions. We had a first vice chair and second vice chair representing the different sections of our watershed. So Marty Noe, who has, again, just as we were acknowledging, has stepped down from the Prince William Soil and Water Conservation Board a while ago. It's time to really kind of reaffirm who is going to be those representatives. Woody Hinson from Westmoreland County has been the other second vice chair, and so he's been a stalwart, and I think he would also enjoy continuing in that role. But I do think that we need to make sure that we work into our process the opportunity for the election and appointment of the officers from the roundtable as well.
That's the other thing we haven't done in recent years is actually go back and re-elect them if we need to do that, and we probably should. I think, as Laura said, Penny and Woody both would probably agree to serve on again. What I think we might want to do, Laura, before we actually do much before the entire roundtable, contact each of them and talk with them and make sure that they are in agreement that they would serve again. Then we might want to actually have an election. Does that sound like something we should do?
I think it does. I think it does sound like something we should do for sure. I do want to say, actually, being in the virtual format lends itself pretty well to allowing a little bit easier substitution. So if Penny is not available, it's a little less of a travel burden for some of the other vice chairs to be able to participate and serve in that role. So I just want to make that acknowledgement. But John, I think that that's a good idea for the roundtable.
Right now, we just have Penny and Woody. I should have gone back before this telephone or this WebEx call and checked our bylaws again. But what are the official officers of the roundtable itself? Is it a chairman, a vice chairman?
It's chairman, and 2 vice chair.
2 vice chairman?
Yes.
So right now we could still have another vice chairman in addition to Woody. And Woody is the one that has the travel issues to deal with for the most part. If it's all right with the council, why don't Laura and I contact both Penny and Woody, and maybe if any of you have a suggestion on somebody that could serve as one of the other vice presidents, let us know. You might even reach out to them and see if they'd be interested, and then we'll contact them and verify that and bring all of this back before the roundtable itself at maybe our next meeting, and maybe have an election, which we probably should have been done more regularly than we have been doing, but haven't done.
Is Paul McCullough, the county administrator from Fauquier, still a roundtable member?
I really don't know.
Okay.
I have not heard anything from Fauquier County. I do know one of the things, again, this year, because we're virtual, this platform is actually quite a bit easier for us to navigate and be able to pull together our roundtable meetings and all. So I will have some more time to be able to reach out to the various counties and jurisdictions and reaffirm their appointments or request new appointments to the roundtable. Some are very consistent and others really require quite a bit of prompting in order to make their appointments. So that's something on our list for this year as well.
By the way, Woody is from the Northern Neck, so we might be looking around at one of the other jurisdictions to see if we could come up with that other second vice president. Do we call them both second vice presidents?
No, it's really just 1 and 2. I don't think that there's really a necessary reason for that, but they are essentially both second vice chairman. So
okay.
Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words a little bit this morning, but yes, that's how they're referred. I know that Chris Numstadt up in Loudon is also a very somebody who has participated regularly in the roundtable as well and expressed a lot of interest. So that might be an option as well. But we can certainly explore some different representatives who might be interested in taking more of a leadership role with the roundtable.
Okay, let's do that. What about member appointments, Laura? We always have some that we can't seem to fill. Is it time to maybe look at the different types of appointments and see if there's some that we should have that we don't have?
We do. It wouldn't hurt for us to do that, perhaps as an executive council with the roundtable representatives, roundtable officers. There's definitely some vacancies and some folks that are moving around. We've had a lot of change over the last 4 years and many retirements. So it is time to revisit that and make some of those more formal requests for appointments to the roundtable as well. So just an example, I received an email from Mike Rollband, who's really trying to step back from a number of his obligations and as he's trying to enjoy retirement. So that's just an example of a spot that we'll have to work to fill.
Hasn't Mike actually moved away?
Deirdre, I'm sorry, would you mind muting one of your, you might need to mute your line on your computer. Can you hear me, Deirdre?
Yeah, as far as I know, I'm muted.
Getting some feedback. All right. Deirdre, I just muted you to try to avoid the feedback while we're having the conversation, but by all means, feel free to unmute yourself when there's a need. So anyway, I'm sorry, John.
Well, one of the things we might do is raise that issue of coming up with another vice president with the roundtable itself when we make a brief report this morning, and suggest that that's something we might want to work with them on before the next meeting.
That sounds good, John. I am also, Jim Gelson is trying, am I muted? Oh, I'm not muted. Okay. Jim Gelson is trying to log on right now. So excuse me if I look a bit distracted, but I'm trying to get him the right access code here.
Laura, I just texted him what you put into the chat box. Is that correct? The 415-655?
61. For the access code?
No, the access code 182-421-6339.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I texted Jim the information that you put in the chat box.
Oh, okay.
Just a little while
Gotcha.
ago, so maybe he'll call in. I think my guess is he's probably using the roundtable instead of the council calling.
I think you're absolutely right there.
I texted him to say, is somebody from Prince William getting on this call? So, I'm trying was his answer.
He's trying. Oh, no worries. I'm glad that he'll be able to join us here in just a few. But John, in response to your question, yes, we can definitely reach out to some of those. Mike Rollband has always been very proactive, and so would be more than happy to work with him on recommendations.
I thought Mike had moved away.
I think he's moved out of the Fairfax area, where
I thought he was going to New York.
Oh, I don't know.
I thought he was living in Prince William. He had a little farm there.
Well, he does
That's what
have
I
a
thought
farm
too.
there. He does have a farm there. But I think he's now married, and I believe his wife is from New York, and I thought they were hoping to move back in that direction.
Well, that'll do it.
Anyway, we'll if the rest of the council is okay with that, we'll work with Penny and Woody and talk with them about maybe coming up with another vice president, and also taking a good look at our membership and seeing if there are some categories of membership that we haven't had in the past that probably need. And any of you that have suggestions along those lines, please feed them to Laura or myself, and we'll make sure they get to the right place. What about our financial report, Laura?
So, hopefully you all received the copy of the financial report. And I'm just going to share my screen here so that we can all look at it together. So this is the financial report for all of the calendar year 2020. We did host the one meeting back in January, and provided that all of that stipend and lunch payouts to the John Marshall Soil and Water Conservation District, and we really appreciated their willingness to host. We were really trying to figure out whether or not we were going to host the April meeting of the roundtable, and we did some work associated with that. And it went from the emails to Penny changed almost hour by hour, where we said, okay, I think we're going to be okay to host a roundtable meeting in April, to no way, we can't host a roundtable in April. What do? We need to cancel it. So, but during this last year, there's still quite a bit of administration that needs to take place, particularly on the financial side. So even though we didn't host any meetings, there was still the need to manage the monthly reconciliations, as well as do any of the website updates and management as well. We did require renewal of our domain name with the company that we use for that is ICD Soft. And we did also require re-entering into our web hosting contract with GoDaddy for another 2-year period of time. So we do have some expenses this year that we did have to pay, again, just to keep ourselves operational. And we do have some expenses that really are due to the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District, just for that administration. So at the beginning of calendar year 2020, We had a beginning balance of $16,747.57. We did have really the grant reimbursement that came in for the prior calendar year arrived in, I want to say February perhaps of 2020. And so that did come in during this period of time. So we did have a total revenue of $3,233 and then a total expenses of $1,416.96. So of that, we are requesting the $596.96 be cut to the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District, again, just to cover these expenses that you see here, including the financial administration of the council business, the domain name renewal, and the website hosting and editing software.
Does anybody have any questions on the financial or treasurer's report?
Hey, Laura, can you hear me? So how are we doing with, how's the grant going to work? Do we still get the grant from DEQ, or are we on our own now, or?
No, it's a good question. We did reapply this year. I submitted a grant application to DEQ. I'm waiting for feedback back from DEQ, but they are still very supportive of roundtable initiatives and certainly providing financial support into this next year. What that looks like and what that amount is we're still waiting to hear. I don't know, Rebecca, if you have any updates?
No, I have to follow up with Richmond. I reviewed it and I didn't have any questions for you, and I sent it along. And maybe I didn't indicate that too. And if I didn't, I'm sorry. But yeah, I sent it off to Richmond, and she told me that I might have to circle back with her. I think that procurement's had some bumps over the past year. So, you know, I think they've been, so I don't know how long it'll take to get all that done, but I'll circle back with Richmond soon.
Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate that. And you did let me know that you had submitted it, and I appreciate that. Yes, so we're waiting to hear back, but I don't think it should preclude us from continuing to move forward with what the plan is for this year. It may just be working out some of the details, and as Rebecca was mentioning, trying to figure out some of the procurement.
Well, fortunately, in those early years, probably before everybody on the call was on, probably except for me. But in the early years, when we had, you know, the Potomac roundtables and the forums, John, you were around, you know, we earned funds of our own through some of those things. So at least we've got enough to kind of move forward and continue to operate. So that's good.
I think, as you can see with this financial report, we really didn't spend a lot of money, even though we weren't holding roundtable meetings. Just enough money to keep ourselves open and in business.
That's right.
If there are no other questions on or about the treasurer's or financial report, the report will be received and file it for whatever kind of audit I guess we'll have. Probably are at the point we could discuss any old business. Laura, do you have any old business that you're thinking of before we go around to the others?
Let me go back to my thing. Well, it is a little bit of a piece of old business, really just a recognition. I'm sorry, let me stop sharing my screen here. Is I do want to just acknowledge the second to last time we met, we appointed new officers for the Potomac Council, and that includes John Peterson as the chair and Robert Pickett as the vice chair. So I just wanted to make that acknowledgement.
How are we with representatives from each of the 6 districts?
We are good. Bob Wormsman from Tri-County City had hoped to participate today as well, but he had another appointment that came up at the same time. So we have representatives from each district.
Representatives and alternates?
Yes.
Okay, good. Is there any other old business anybody would like to bring forward? Hearing none, what about new business? And I see that Laura has one thing she'd like to talk about, and that's our fiscal 21 program schedule.
Yes. So,
Calendar year 21, I guess.
yes. So we're looking at again. This relates back to the grant application that we did put forward with DEQ, and again, I really appreciate that. Their willingness to continue to support roundtables in whatever format we can meet in. I think it's really great. I did prepare a bit of an outline for Penny as we head into this next year in terms of sharing some upcoming program ideas. We are looking, as you've seen today, to keep these roundtable meetings to just the 2.5 hours or so. And we can certainly take a look at it, whether or not there's a need for expansion, but we don't want to, it's a little awkward since we're not hosting lunch. And I know that we're all going to be really missing those networking opportunities that take place during that lunchtime frame. But just to give you an idea of some of the topics that we're looking at for this fiscal year is in April, we are looking to have our meetings scheduled again. So the next meeting would be April 9th. And at that one, we'll be pretty well through the General Assembly session. I know they're doing a short session this year. So we should have some good ideas of what worked, what didn't work. And we're hoping to bring in some of our General Assembly members to share a little bit about and do a reflection on this past legislative session program. In July, that meeting will take place on July 9th as well. And we're looking at having, excuse me, Josh Sachs, who's a Deputy Secretary of Natural Resources, come and talk a little bit more about the Coastal Resilience Master Planning Framework and some of the flood mitigation funding that is now available as well. I think they're beginning to roll that out right about that same meeting time as well. And then on October, that meeting will be on October 8th. I think Penny is hoping by then we might be able to meet in person, but we plan for the worst, hope for the best, and we will have more of an agricultural focus at that meeting. One of the things that Penny is very concerned about and interested in learning is what the effects of COVID, what effects has COVID had on agricultural producers, and especially their willingness to implement any water quality programs. So I would be very interested in getting any feedback on that, as well as any input on other topics that you might be interested in sharing and exploring this year.
That's your chance, folks. What other suggestions might you have? By the way, Laura, on some of those topics that you're talking about, particularly the impact of the virus on farm workers, a lot of those daily things I send you have articles on that.
I appreciate that, John, and I do share those with others as well.
After the General Assembly meets, if there's anything that has happened in last General Assembly session or this General Assembly session that affects the Chesapeake Bay Watershed Implementation Plan and the implementation of that might be kind of, a good topic to talk about. Some of the new legislation that's being put into place in 2025 and anything that might affect legislatively WIP might be an interesting topic.
That would be good.
Laura,
I was muted. You're breaking up just a little bit. If you want to type any thoughts into the chat box, you're welcome to, Deirdre. the chat box, you'll see in the lower right-hand corner where it says participants and chat.
If anybody does come up with suggestions for topics, I suspect all they need to do is get them to you, Laura, and we'll work with Penny and get them on the schedule.
Yes, yes, that's absolutely right. I know we've also talked in the past about solar farms, and there's been a lot of information that has come out recently. And so we're continuing to kind of follow along with that and see how we could integrate that into the program. That might be a nice one for October.
Solar farm issue would be a good one. That was a favorite of Deirdre's for a long time. And I've noticed that there are some states now that are finally getting concerned about the effects of some of those farms, particularly at the time they're abandoned. What might have they done to the soil below them? And who is really going to be responsible for dealing with all that stuff that's left?
John, can you share some of those resources, or if you know that those long
I can. Yeah, I know Maine has really become concerned about that as a state. I will.
Because again, now that we're in a virtual format, it makes it so much easier to bring people from outside of Virginia as well to share their experiences.
Wait, Laura, if those ag reports that I send you every morning, you might want to send those at least to our council reps just for a while, see if they want to see them.
Okay.
And today, of course, I'm going to be late because we have this meeting and then I'm still on the NACD board.
You want something done, give it to a busy man or woman.
Any other suggestions on topics for meetings we would have in this calendar year?
Well, in Loudoun County, we have something, I don't know how peculiar it is to us, about landowners taking their land and turning it into dumps and putting all manner of thing in it to receive funds. And Loudoun at first seemed to be restrictive of it and now appears to be letting it happen, particularly in, as you know, Western Loudoun is our more rural area under threat by development, of course. And so I don't know if that's an issue that reverberates throughout the Commonwealth or the different districts, but it's become partly, I think, a problem where we are.
John, how are they getting any money for letting their property become a dump?
Well, the truck pulls up and pays $100 or $300 and dumps.
Oh, okay, I see.
And what some call it is tipping. So we don't want to, we always have a euphemism for whatever we're doing. And I have no idea how extensive a problem it is. I have anecdotal information because I was just talking about it with staff. But
it is an issue, and it is something even that we have in Fairfax County, and it can be a violation of erosion and sediment control. It can be a violation depending upon where it is dumped. A violation of resource protection areas as well. So it is prevalent, and especially because of the costs associated with tipping fees and finding a space large enough to be able to dispose of topsoil or construction material and things like that. There, some of these areas where they could use them and spread them on the land. It can be an issue. We've had to deal with that in Fairfax as well.
Let's make that a topic.
Okay.
To at least discuss and learn about. If it's happening in Loudoun and Fairfax, I'll bet it's happening in virtually all of the counties.
I would think, yeah. When they drew my attention to the filings, it's not like they're dumping topsoil, although they could be. But
mostly trash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, so they're dumping trash, like construction material?
Probably mostly construction.
Car bodies, almost anything. Yeah, I didn't realize that was quite that extensive, even in our own county, Laura. So that would be a topic I think would be interesting to explore. Well, let's keep thinking of additional topics, and if you have some, feed them to Laura, and then working with Penny, she usually crafts an agenda for the next council meeting. I'm sure Penny and Woody will have some ideas too, and we might reach out to them while we're talking with them, Laura. You talk with Penny regularly.
I do. And she is very interested in getting input from others as well. So I'm certain that she'll bring that up as a question today.
Okay.
John, I just wanted to let you know that we do have time on the roundtable agenda for you to give a brief update. So if you wanted to share some of these topics as ideas and some of the things that we've referred to, I think that would be great.
I have one other thing I'd like to revisit. You know, when you were talking about possible vice chairs or vice presidents, Kristen Umstadt really does seem to work hard at whatever assignment she's given. And I hadn't thought of her until you mentioned her, Laura, but she might be a good candidate for this. I mean, I assume she's running from one issue to another all the time, but she's in a secure seat if she continues to represent that same district. And she's greater than the sum of her parts, and she would be probably a great assistant to Penny if she was interested. I had no conversation with her and didn't think of it before you mentioned it today. But Kristen would be a good candidate if she could do it, wanted to do it.
How do you suspect we should reach out to her, John?
A cold call. I mean, and Laura, you probably know her because she has attended the meetings and she's engaged in the discussions. Now, when I say that, she attended the meetings when it was her responsibility as the liaison from the Board of Supervisors for Loudoun to our board. But I think she's interested in matters environmental and water, and she's had some initiatives on the board as well about that. So,
I agree.
You know,
And
yeah,
I certainly work with Penny on reaching out to her as well, because I know that they
sure
that know each other as well. So, but yeah, I'm more than happy to just give her a call and see if she would be interested.
You might want to bounce that off Penny first, but it sounds like she'd be a good candidate.
Yeah, I think she would be. She's not the exclusive one, but she might be.
No.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to make a note, John, that Robert included some information, and Deirdre there's a little bit of a conversation going on in chat, which is great, regarding some of the disposal issues. So I'm going to capture that information as well and hold on to that and put that in our summary for today too. But some of the concerns again related to the waste disposal. And soil health, Deirdre also suggested soil health as a topic, and that is an emerging issue, an interest for sure. And the new Soil Health Coalition, it would be really great to bring some of their initiatives to the table. I think looking at it from that comprehensive approach and bring all these groups together is great. So good ideas for sure.
I have a confession to make that others might enjoy. You see behind me that I'm in this expansive legal office. I'm not really in that expansive legal office. I just put up a picture. So if you click on your picture, it says you can put up a virtual background. So if you want to show your animals or you have waving trees and things behind you, you can do that. So this is one of those things when your bandwidth allows you, you can do things like that, I suppose.
Well, it's very impressive. It matches your bow tie.
Yes, I'm dressed for my background. You know, I think I'll come in coveralls the next time, and I'll have a barn behind me with an animal.
Thank God I don't have a camera.
There's I don't know if you remember, without regard to politics, when what's his name, Sanders appeared. And he was so cold on the day of the inauguration, he sat there with these mittens on and stuff like that. Well, I had a picture of him sitting on a roadway, and I had him in the background while I attended one meeting. So I won for the virtual background of that meeting. Sorry to digress.
Any other suggestions under new business? Laura, did you put the agenda for the actual Potomac Watershed Roundtable meeting today on the roundtable email?
Yes, it's also posted on the website.
Okay. Okay.
So just to prep you all for who's joining us this morning with the roundtable, I'm really pleased. We've got two great topics. One is an update by Mr. Justin Williams, who is the director of the Office for Chesapeake Bay and Local Government Assistance. So I believe that was the position that Joan Salvati held, if you all remember her. And she was actually a regular participant with the roundtable as well, and has presented numerous times to our group. So Justin started just a few weeks before we all shut down because of COVID. So this is really a nice opportunity to get to know him, and he's going to be sharing some updates and perspective on the WIP and any additional, be available to answer any questions as well. We also have Dr. Molly Mitchell, who is with the Virginia Institute of Marine Science, coming to share some of her research on the prediction of septic failures in the coastal plain of Virginia. So that's sort of an emerging topic. Unfortunately, with when we look at cost benefit, the septic pump out and remove or repair is not as cost beneficial when it comes to meeting Bay TMDL goals, but it has other implications for public health and especially local water quality as well. So looking forward to learning a little bit more about her research and applications for that throughout other parts of the Commonwealth. So we should be wrapping up. There will be time for announcements and time for discussion as well. Please bear with us as we're trying to navigate this. We're expecting about 65 people to join us this morning, so that's a pretty large group. So with that.
Laura, just another name to keep in mind if we really do want to pursue soil health. Chris Lawrence from NRCS might be a very good speaker.
Yes,
he was on a teleconference I was on last night, and he did a very good job.
I think Chris is leading that soil health coalition in Virginia, and or at least he's really the staff person for that. So it's a real impressive group. So that's a great suggestion, John. I wanted to just mention Deidre put another couple of items in the chat in regards to some suggestions for some new business. She suggests Potomac Watershed reliable source for trees and vegetation for riparian buffers. That sounds like intriguing, Deirdre. And I'm not sure if you're asking that question, if that's something you want to discuss this morning. You're coming through okay, so you can nod if if that's something you wanted to touch base on. Also, she was saying that although the Potomac watershed comprises 56% of Fauquier County, we must often rely on the Rappahannock sources for buffer material. I see what you're saying. So you're looking for sources of trees and vegetation in the Potomac watershed for projects in the Potomac watershed. Does anybody have any suggestions for Deirdre? I can say, Deirdre says she'll call me later on that topic, which is fine. I know from our experience in regards to our native tree and shrub sale, which we sold out in 11 hours. And that sale will result in the distribution of at least 6,400 trees. Deirdre, one of the other sources that we use is Maryland. Maryland's nursery, state nursery, is also quite good. And I don't know if they're located in the Potomac watershed, but they might be. But if we're looking for something in Virginia, I'm not familiar with another source for large production, but there's an opportunity there.
We could also ask Jim.
Yes.
Is there anything else that we need to talk about today that needs to be addressed by our council?
Jim is on by audio, but I'm not sure that he can communicate. I think he might be caller number 7.
You're talking Jim Gelson. I was talking Jim McGlone.
Sorry.
Jim McGlone, by the way, for those that don't know him, Dr. McGlone is a forester with the Department of Forestry that attends our conservation district meetings on a regular basis. And he might be able to help with some of those sources too. And maybe Jim Gelson could too.
Yes, I'm here, John. It took me a while to get in. I'm just audio. I don't have a valid passcode for the WebEx.
We don't like you, Jim.
That's been apparent this
Nice.
morning.
Well, we're glad you made it, Jim.
Yeah, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you have, Laura, that needs to come before the council this morning, or anybody else has that they would like to bring up? If not, since we have to leave this particular access to WebEx and then come back on another one, maybe we need to adjourn and get ready for the actual council or roundtable meeting.
Yes,
Remember, you have to get off this line and come back again.
got it.
If there's no other business to come before the Potomac Watershed Council, let's declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, Laura, and everybody else.
It's nice to see everybody. Glad everybody's healthy.
It is. Good to see you again.
Yes, good to be with you all. See you shortly.
Yep.
Very good.